What is going on, everybody? So today is a bit of a different format to what I normally do. Basically today I am just going to be sitting here for a bit because I've got some builders coming back in about an hour. They're just going to do some building inspections. And I thought I'll take some time out and just sit back and just kick it with you guys. And because, look, I've got a lot of life experience, as do a lot of you guys. And there's questions that some of you probably have that are burning a hole in your mind or burning a hole in your pocket or wherever it is that you keep your questions that you might want to actually ask me. Because, I could do topic after topic after topic, and there might be topics that resonate with certain people, and there might be topics that don't. So I guess I just wanted to open the floor to you guys to ask this stuff. I was just asked by Mr. Veguila, I think it is. Apologies if I mispronounce that. Do you love all animals? I love animals, generally speaking. I do love animals. There's some animals that I could take or leave. I would say I don't hate any animals. Generally speaking, I really, really do love animals. And I do enjoy video games, but I wouldn't say with respect to video games, I particularly have a penchant for them. Like I've got a PS3. I used to have a PS4, but it got stolen from my old house after I'd moved out after my separation divorce. But yeah, someone broke in, stole my PS4, and I just never bought another one. I've got an Xbox One as well, but still in the box. I haven't even taken it out. It's been a while. So yeah, I really don't get much time for video games. I'm between working and making content and other stuff. It's crazy. Mr. Right One, good on you, man. He said, I've just started my own business offering free digital portraits. And this is the way as well, guys. If you can do something low cost, start up a business and get a bit of social proof by getting some referrals and some reviews on your work and what you've done, that's going to help you a lot. James, mornings with Sydney MGTOW. Yes, it is. It's 9:40 in the morning for me. And Successful Endeavor says Chronic has expressed interest in the summit. Fantastic. So hoping to get together a group of people, much like the last time I got a summit of people together. So I had like Terrence Pop and Sandman and CGA and Better Bachelor and a bunch of other guys as well. Chronic was meant to be in that one, but there was some technical issues, so he couldn't come in. The Contrarian. Oh, my friend, I am so glad. So glad that you actually asked that question. How to start a YouTube channel. So I'm actually going to drop a link to a tutorial that I did on another channel that I've started. And guys, if you want to go over and subscribe to this channel, please be my guest because I'll be doing some different content on that one. Switch accounts. Just going over to there now. By the way, koalas are not dangerous. They're not dangerous. Actually, their claws are pretty sharp. So while drop bears, little inside info, drop bears are not a thing. We Aussies love to use that to shit stir people. So I'm just going to drop a link for you, the Contrarian, into the comments. Link 1. So that is on how to start a YouTube channel, how to literally set the thing up from scratch. And the second one is how to upload your first video. So those are the first two things you really need to know. I'm going to be doing some more tutorials as well, but those are really the fundamental key ones you need to get started with. So even if you just want to start off with starting your channel, just get the channel up and running. Just get it active so that you can do stuff with it. That would be the best way to start. And then you can look in the back end, look at how everything works from there. By the way, guys, I will, as we get more and more comments coming through and it starts to get a bit hard to keep a track, I will be switching over to addressing super chats only. So fingers crossed. It doesn't get too busy too soon, because I'd love to help as many of you guys as I can without having to resort to that. So I just got a question from James French. Where'd you get the microphone from? So this is actually, sorry if this I'm going to mute this for a second while I take this off. This is actually the Rodecaster Pro. Sorry, the Rode Procaster. The Rode Procaster. So I've actually got that hooked up to one of these bad boys. So this thing here, that is the Rode Procaster. So like in a better thing, I'm pretty sure Joker's got one of these because he's doing his sound effects. This is like all the different sound effect panels. So and then if I flick across, I can actually go over to my, here we go.
No.
Love that one. Gets me every single time. There we go. So yeah, basically this, I bought this from DJ City. Actually, I bought this from Pro AV Express, but I bought a second one from DJ City. It's going to mute this for a second while I put this back on. The windshield just stops like any sort of really breathy sounds from the air coming through. So yeah, it's a really, really good setup. You can even just hear the difference between when I had it off a second ago and when I had that windshield on. I actually have got another delivery in the way. So I've got my second Rode windshield. I've got another windshield and a desk stand. I'm going to be buying a bag so that I can essentially take this whole podcast studio with me anywhere I go and just do stuff straight off the bat. All right, we have our first super chat. Where are we here? Pradeep says, I tried to date Aussie girls, can't even get one. So look, I got to admit, it is kind of hard to date Aussie girls just because they are, so many of them, particularly the really attractive ones, have got so many simps up in their inbox that they can really get away with anything. I'm sorry I'm doing this. It's just I'm so itchy at the moment. But yeah, Pradeep, look, man, I don't know that you're really missing out on that much. Like I totally get it, especially because you know, look, some of them are good looking. I just don't know that you're missing out on that much. There are some good Aussie girls, but there's just not that many. And like, what's your purpose in dating? Are you wanting to date for sex? Are you wanting to date for relationships? Are you wanting to date for some experience, maybe for later on? Like, I really want to try and understand what your end goal is. So feel free to drop another comment. You don't need to leave another super chat for that. You can if you want, but I will respond to it if I see it from you. McTow for Life says, Sydney, how often do you get to ride your motorcycle? I ride my motorcycle every single night that I work, which can be anywhere between 4 and 6 nights a week. Typically speaking, as long as it's not raining, I'll ride my motorbike. And I love riding my motorbike. It's one of the greatest things. Scott Muncie says, what's up, Sydney? Just found you a week or so ago. My first live episode. What's up, all dudes, ladies? I actually do get some ladies in here. I even get ladies who super chat as well, send me donations. And, you know, look, I appreciate everyone, particularly like, you know, I appreciate all the guys and the girls that support this channel, even if it's just a share or a like or a comment or whatever the case may be. Damn, man. I shaved last night, like trimmed all this down. It was really itchy, so it's a bit red at the moment. What the fuck is going on here? Let's, I think I know what's going on. Nah, whatever. I'm just going to keep going for a little bit. See if this sorts itself out. Wireless lighting, hey? Fun. Greetings from Brazil, fellow MGTOWs. Greetings to you, man. Daniel Banfield says, love you, all my MGTOW brothers. Love you too, brother. It's good to see you. Shane, the mechanic, on my way to the cardiologist to get my echocardiogram results. I hope it's good. Brother, I hope it is good as well. Hope there's nothing major there that we need to be concerned about. Fingers crossed that all works out well. MGTOW for Life says, the last summit was the best. Great content. Mr. Tube Visitor Gabriel says, how much we love Ronan Man. You know what? I love Ronan Man stuff. A lot of his content is in long form. Like he just sits and he gets very philosophical, but he always has got something interesting to say. It was such a pleasure catching up with him when he came to Australia and was in Melbourne. Unfortunately, at the moment in Melbourne, it is crazy. It is just bananas. I mean, I just don't even know what's going to happen from there. In fact, I might see if I can share the quick. Wait. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to go and share with you the video that I saw this morning. Hillary Clinton is clinically insane. There's genuinely no other way to describe my thoughts on this matter. Let me share this screen with you guys. Here we go. Application window. In fact, I'm going to copy that link address on the window. That way I can
After
share
30 days, I could not believe my before and after picture. I literally rolled back the hands of time 10 years. When I first saw this product, I thought it looked kind of crazy. Didn't really understand what the benefits would be.
Add audio.
But I had seen some before and after pictures on the website and thought to myself, you know what? I'm 48 years old. My face is starting to look a little bit aged. Wouldn't hurt to try. So, and the best way I can explain this product is it's like something you've never experienced. You have about...
So I'm just going to skip the ads here. Right, here we go. Have a load of this. Get a load of this. Just full screen that bad boy.
Democrats have made it very clear they plan to put Joe Biden in the White House in January, whether he wins the election or not. Watch.
Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstances because I think this is going to drag out, and eventually I do believe he will win if we don't give an inch and if we are as focused and relentless as the other side is.
So just have a look at that face. Has the wall not gone to town on this lady? Like this is what we're dealing with. I mean, I just feel in my bones. I just know that Trump is taking home this election. I just know he is. Like him or hate him, he's taking it home. That's my call. It's just in my bones. I feel it. Ireland just implemented an educational change where girls automatically get higher scores for tests that determine college entrance, and they penalize boys. That is actually factual. That is actually true. I'm going to pull up that article because I was looking at that just this morning and I bookmarked that. Here we go. Right. Here we go. Girls to do better than boys in calculated grade, leading cert exams as gender trends will be built into results. The calculated grading system being used for this year's leaving certificate has been designed to ensure that overall girls will do better than boys. The exam system is supposed to be blind and anonymized, but the gender of the students will be taken into account. So it's not blind and anonymized then. It could become a battleground over the estimated results, which are set to be issued on September 7. Because the issue of predicted grades is now a major controversy. Students vented frustration at a system that's already seen 40% of final year A-level students receive lower grades than those predicted by their teachers. In Irish schools, girls consistently perform better than boys on average during the end of school exams. So here's Education Minister Norma Foley. Check out this feminazi. All right. I bet that dress stinks of cat piss. Education Minister Norma Foley's admission that the gender trend would be factored into the calculated grade system came in a little noted parliamentary reply before the Dale rose. The use of demographic characteristics, including gender and socioeconomic status of the school, was inherent in the technical working group's design, she admitted. Separately, the challenges facing schools preparing to reopen under COVID restrictions are laid bare in figures that show Ireland has the most overcrowded classrooms in Europe. Mr. Foley has said in her written reply, the purpose of the calculated grade system is to arrive at the grade each student would have achieved if the leaving certificate examinations had taken place as normal. In order to make sure, here we go, this is the kicker. In order to make sure that the standardization process works, there will be validation, including any necessary rebalancing to preserve girls' advantage on higher grades as seen in previous years. So if girls are getting the same this time, we're going to bump them up. That's what that's saying. Minister needs to do it. Neither class nor gender should define whether a student gets an A or not, nor whether a student fails or not. Well, it sure seems like you're not practicing what you preach there, Norma. Sure seems like that. Unbelievable, these feminists. We just got another super chat from Shane. He said, that's the face that makes you take a plane to Epstein's Island, but without the children, of course. Without that. Oh dear, so true. That seemed to be the style back then. What else we got here? Successful endeavors. Thank you for the update. Hammerhand's channel is up and running. That is good to know. That's good to know. I've seen some commentary in my stream about Hammerhand being banned, so I'm glad that he's back. White Sydney Central Coast Anglos are massively full of themselves and arrogant. Yeah, it's damn shame they're so physically desirable. This is what I was saying before with regards to the first super chat. Unfortunately, a lot of the Australian girls are quite entitled, very, very entitled. So, this is the situation that we've got. You can have a pet in Australia if you keep it outside. Yes, it would be probably pretty hard to keep inside though, because they can jump the fence very easily. Elvin, Sydney MGTOW, when are you going to make TikToks? Would it count as MGTOK? I'm pretty sure that I would get drowned out by all the ETHOS making TikToks. And there was this, I can't remember her name, but she made a pretty funny TikTok. She's really short. And she burst into the room and the song playing was I Ain't Your Toy. And I was like, yeah, you would be. Got another super chat from Them Truckers. Says, thanks for having a platform that MGTOWs can converse on. Absolutely. Riff Magos, brother, good to see you, man. Riff Magos says, hey, Sydney, good to catch a live stream. I hope you're keeping well. Riff, I am. I'm not keeping as well as I should have been. I've been running myself into the ground a bit. That's why I'm like a bit dry and red around the face. So that's the reason behind that. By the way, guys, if any of you actually want to come on, look, it almost goes against what I believe, but obviously I can't have all of you on because I've got 108 of you on the box right now. But if any of you want to donate and ask a question and donate $50 or more, I will drop the link in the chat and I will allow you to come in. And you can hide your camera. You can keep your camera on. And also, Daniel Banfield just says, it won't let me super chat. Guys, if you also want to drop a PayPal donation, I will open up my PayPal so that I can see that. Just let me know in the comment of your donation what your username is. So when you actually come into the green screen back end, I can see exactly who it is and just make sure that the person who's actually made the donation is the one that's in the green room. It just wouldn't be fair if I let everyone in And look, guys, I know not everyone can afford $50, and I respect that. But I've got to, I guess keep things manageable. AV Scott and Flower says, Sydney, is it true that the COVID restrictions down under are batshit crazy? Look, they're not so bad in Sydney, but they are insane in Melbourne. And when I say insane, I mean insane. Like, this guy is just a dictator. Give me a second. Hang on, guys. Sorry about that, gents. I just got a guy. He's just got a plaster up on the balcony there, and there was a bit of bubbling on the paint, and they had to take it off and see if there's any leakage. So, if you're getting any background noise from that, please let me know. I'll close the door for now. Melbourne is awful. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Shane says, I used to have issues with Super Chat. Log back into Google and verify your account. That could also be the case. So there's that. And yes, I will be also, guys, I will be reading and acknowledging any Super Chat, any PayPal donations during this stream as well, out of appreciation. So all right, what else have we got here? TikTok, where even a land whale can be a start. That is a fact. That is a fact. But obviously, the hotter you are, the easier it is to get attention on there. Jerry says, Shalom, MGTOW brothers. Love and peace from Boston, Massachusetts, USA. Appreciate that, man. And yes, Hammerhand is cool. It is good that Hammerhand is back 100%. I've got a lot of respect for Hammerhand. A lot of respect for Hammerhand, massively. Jason Thornton says, Sydney, you're ruining my eyesight tonight. Yes, I am. Sorry about that. Over Easy Mode says Trump all the way. Hillary Clinton used to be a babe, but the wall has gone to town on her. This is actually true. This is actually true. There was an Oxford exam, and they wanted to basically get girls having better results in STEM. 10 minutes. Let me see if I can find this actual. Oxford. Here we go. Oxford University extends time for maths and computer science exams in a bid to help women get better grades. Let's bring this up, shall we? Share this screen. There we go. Guys, you cannot make this up. Oxford University extends time for maths and computer science exams in bid to help women get better grades. Undergrads given 105 minutes, so it's an hour and 45 minutes to complete papers rather than 90 minutes. Hoped change will reduce effects of time pressure. So it was 15 minutes more they got. Poor Diddums having some time pressure on an exam. Whatever will they do? Hoped effects will reduce the effect. 7 female maths finalists achieved firsts last year compared with 45 men. So even, I mean, doesn't that just say everything? You know, and guys are more likely to enjoy maths. They are. It's not like we're making up some, ooh, you know, men are better at maths because we're sick. No, that's not how it works. By the way, successful endeavors. The guy in the background was the dude doing the plastering on the balcony. He came before and did it, and he just had to cover it off a bit. And I'm definitely going to have to go and give me a sec. I'm just going to
in this video,
I am just going to subscribe back to Hammerhand while I'm here. While I remember, there we go. 1.79 thousand subscribers, 30 videos. Subscribe to all. I'm going to drop the link to Hammerhand's YouTube channel in the stream here. There we go. That is Hammerhand's link. I've just dropped that in the chat. So go and check that out. If you are a Hammerhand fan and you got kicked off his channel, you haven't been getting the notifications because he was actually off YouTube for a little bit. Also, I understand. Carl K says, given the cost SJW mentality and entitled females, Australia would be a hard no for me to consider moving to. Man, I got to tell you, it is such a nightmare being a security guard in Sydney. Like it kills my life. It genuinely kills my life. I know that's a metaphor. I'm not dead, obviously. But yeah, just trying to deal with them, trying to deal with drunk, belligerent women is next to impossible. It seriously is. But yeah, back to this Oxford University. There was no change in the difficulty or length of questions, and female students were said to do better as a result. Yeah, imagine how much better the male students would have done if they had an extra 15 minutes. You dumbasses. Don's trialed the changes to allow women to achieve higher results, with just 7 maths finalists achieving firsts compared with 45 men. So still, there's such a massive gap. What are you going to give them 2.5 hours next time? Get the fuck out of here, man. Yeah. I mean, look, I don't need to go further into that, but if you want to Google that, just go Oxford University extends time for maths and computer science exams, and you'll find that. Broken Fire says, Sydney, you now have over 6 million views on videos. That's amazing. Yeah, man. I'm actually pretty blown away, actually. I'm going to jump on and tell you guys exactly how many million views I have so far. And this is since I started my channel, my all-time views. Where are we? Analytics. There's a separate app just for YouTube analytics. Real-time views, lifetime, 6.38 million. So guys, I honestly couldn't have done it without you. For any of you guys who are watching and you're not currently subscribed, you've just randomly seen this video and came up as recommended, you thought you'd check it out, someone sent it to you, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And when you hit the subscribe button, there's a bell next to it. You got to click on that bell and select all if you want to get all notifications. Because if you don't select all, you'll only get the videos that YouTube recommend to you, which are not many at all. So you'll barely ever see my videos, which it's going to mean you're going to not catch many of my lives if that's something that you enjoy. Now, Al says, how worth it is it to even live in Australia anymore? It sounds like California times 10. Let me share with you something from Australia. Enterprise. Enterprise is a very interesting character. Here we go. And this shit, oh God, man. I get so sensitive, like all over my face when I grow my beard long. This is why when I shave my beard, usually I shave it. And then I don't come online for a few days because I'm like nursing the redness. So this was published about 6 months ago now. And this was just absolutely insane. You can't even make this stuff up, guys. You simply can't. So this was an opinion piece called How to Stop Men Killing Their Wives and Their Children. Right? Just what you want to read. Now, this particular one. So we must, in the wake of the erasure of Hannah Clark and her 3 kids. We must do more than wring our hands. There's no better time than amid this despair to consider how we can prevent this happening to one more woman or child. It needs a commitment to research and a wholehearted guarantee from governments at all levels. Of everyone I've spoken to, trying to make sense of the horror, Heather Nancarrow. So Heather Nancarrow is a radical feminist from Australian National Research Organisation, from Women's Safety, which is a radical feminist organisation, which is largely government funded. She proposed the most radical intervention. When any man is transitioning out of a relationship, she says, he should be monitored. What she means is that during the period of separation, every man, not woman, every man only, must be put on a program with mental health checks and scrutinized for signs of violence to ensure he is making the safety transition safely and not a risk to women, children, or themselves. This won't please everyone, but we've tried to put support around women and it's not working, she says. We must target individual men. That means you. What would it involve? A law forcing every separating couple to register this development with police. The practicalities would be difficult, and Nancarrow admits it's a radical idea, but this is an indication of her desperation. See, what women could technically even do, they could actually go to the police and say that they were in a relationship with you, even if they weren't, just because you upset them, and now they have to be monitored by police. And now this girl pretends to be your girlfriend, psychologically manipulating you, legally manipulating you, controlling you, taunting you, and you can't do anything about it just because you hurt her feelings one day and she wanted to get back at you. This is the world we're living in, gents. Here we go. Separation is the most dangerous time for a woman. Well, because separation's when women are most likely to hit guys and then get hit back. Despite those indicators, Nancarrow suggests there should be universal screening, anything to prevent another woman. 1 in 4 women who are no longer in a relationship reported that the violence increased after the separation. Yeah, that didn't say who initiated the violence after the separation, though. Doesn't say who initiated it. That's kind of like a key thing. I'm just going to use my my lamp here as a bit of lighting, because otherwise the lighting sucks because this thing won't work. Here we go. Catherine Humphreys, professor of social work at the University of Melbourne, agrees we must work on men in relation to separation. She says violent men are stuck in the mindset that if they can't control their partners, they plot to hurt them. It's a tough one, changing the mindset. Manjana Michael Flood, associate professor in the law faculty at Queensland University of Technology, has researched masculinity for decades. Now, I'm going to show you what this guy looks like that has been researching masculinity for decades. And tell me if you think that he is an expert in masculinity based on what you're seeing here. Let's go and check this one out, shall we? What do you guys think? Do you think he's an expert in masculinity? Mr. Michael Flood. Apparently he's an expert in masculinity. Yeah, sure, Mikey. I'll believe that when you back off the soy milk. We must fix men. Here we go. We must rewrite societal definitions of manhood away from power and entitlement and towards compassion and nurturance. So basically, we must rewrite the societal definition of manhood to be womanhood, is what he's saying. We must fix men who are far and away responsible for most murders of female partners and people in general. This is no exaggeration, no fiddling with the figures. Jade McCulloch, the director of Monash University's Gender and Family Violence Prevention Center, believes family violence is our biggest national security issue. Complete bullshit. She said there's no single issue, but addressing equal pay and recognizing the costs and benefits of women's unpaid caring work would make Australia a more equal society. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women are 10 times more likely to die from a violent assault than other women, says Antoinette Braybrook, chair of the National Family Violence Prevention Center. See, here's the thing. Jacinta Price has been saying this for a while now, that there's a big problem in the Aboriginal community, but no one wants to address it because that's racist. They don't want that to affect their re-election chances. Marindal Andrew, program manager. I'm going to look at what she looks like. At the Australian Women Against Violence Alliance, says there are many actions we can take now. She says we must fund and support specialist women's services. The money flows to services which don't have specialist expertise. No, I can't seem to find Australia. That's okay. Look, that's not much of that much of relevant. Here we go. The money flows to services which don't have specialist expertise. So she's basically saying we must fund and support specialist women's services. We got to funnel all the money into feminist organizations. Kerry Carrington, a professor of criminology at the University of Queensland, puts the weight of her research on women-only police stations with relevant services. God, can you imagine how misandric those would be? Women-only police services run only by feminists. My God. We have a system that doesn't understand gendered violence because we have a bunch of politicians who don't want to understand it. Hey, Kerry, do you know why our system doesn't understand gendered violence? Because it doesn't exist, you spastic. And you call yourself a professor of criminology. No wonder the whole law profession is going down the toilet. We've come a long way, says Jade McCulloch, and she believes a violence-free future is possible. Now, there was also something else. Did she change? No way. Please tell me she didn't change this. There was something that Jenna Price said in one of these articles. Maybe, man, I need to start archiving this stuff on Archive.is more. And got a couple more super chats here. We have a super chat from Matthew Drescher. He says, I don't have any questions, but I'm absolutely ecstatic to catch a live stream at last. Thank you for many years of great content. Much love from the US. Matthew Drescher, thank you so much for that, brother. You know what, Matthew, send me an email, sydneymigtow@gmail.com. Tell me what times over the next week you are generally free, and I will do my best to do my live streams during those times as a thank you for your generosity just there with that donation. So, man, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. It's incredibly generous of you. And Luke Chase, old faithful Luke Chase, man, you've been around for a long time. I appreciate you, man. Says, you deserve more than Bella, but I don't have 2 millions. Good job, my Aussie friend. Well, I know I deserve more than Bella. Maybe I should start an OnlyFans of my own. Start an OnlyFans. You know, some dudes are actually making some good cash putting their schlongs on there, their schwing-schwangs. So can't rule it out. All right, what else have we got here? No matter how hard the leftists try, they will never achieve their fantasy that everybody is equal in ability. It's not just reality. So, James, I actually spoke to a friend of mine this morning, and he was telling me about someone who nicknamed these leftist states like Portland and Seattle and Minneapolis. And of course, look, not everyone who lives there is a leftist, naturally. It's not just like they got all the leftists and were like, hey, you're going to live here and just go nuts with all of your activism and Antifa nonsense and your soy lattes. But by the way, guys, if you're taking soy because you are dairy-free, try almond milk, coconut milk. There's so many cashew milk. There's so many different types of milk that you can get if you must have milk that don't have soy that aren't dairy. So yeah, soy just kills your testosterone. But yeah, my friend came up with this term called utopia for leftists, and he called it a bluetopia because, you know, when you're talking the US, the blue states and the red states, and I thought that was really, really clever. So yeah, that's my comment on that one, James. Commissar Andrews is an asset of the CCP. Guys, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to actually pull up this. I sent this to Miggy the other day, actually. Good old Migler, MGTOW 101. I'm going to share this link. Go into here. Contact info. Media links and documents. Links. Because this is basically, we're calling, he's got all these names. He's got Chairman Dan. We've got Chairman Dan Andrews of the People's Republic of Victoria. We've got Afghanistan. I mean, all the memes are coming hard and fast. It's actually quite insane. Here we go. I found this. I'm going to.
At that point, we will not be returning to normal because there will be no vaccine in the weeks ahead. Some argue even in the months ahead.
Right. So I'm going to share this screen.
Not be returning to normal because there will be no vaccine.
So what I'm about to show you, this is Daniel Andrews. This is the Premier of Victoria and New South Wales. Is it any wonder that people are calling this dude a dictator? Hang on, I've just got to make sure I actually included the audio in that share. So I'll just have to reopen that. Sorry, guys.
At that point, we will not be returning to normal because there will be no vaccine in the weeks ahead. Some argue even in the months ahead. It is a long way off. And unless and until that vaccine is developed and then administered to every single Victorian, we will have to live with and embrace a COVID normal.
Until every single Victorian is vaccinated, we will have to embrace a COVID normal. What is a COVID normal? Well, Mr. Andrews, man, you know, we could state of emergency Victoria, Dan Andrews. This guy wanted to extend the state of emergency to give himself sweeping powers, like just absolute, complete dictatorship, complete control over the whole entire state. It was super extraordinary. You can barely fathom this stuff. It is really that crazy. It is that insane. Here we go. Premier Daniel Andrews says, so this has been vetoed by our Prime Minister, by the way, so this isn't happening anymore, but this is what he wanted. He wanted to extend Victoria's state of emergency to 18 months with strict lockdowns. And it's not an unlimited extension. It is nothing more than a recognition that this virus won't be over on September 30. It's never going to be over, dude. It's never going to be over. It's always going to be around. This is to ensure restrictions such as mandatory masks and the strict lockdown can continue to be implemented throughout the state. While the Public Health and Wellbeing Act 2008 says only allows a state of emergency to operate for 6 months, the Premier said amendments are being made to change it so he can have dictatorial control for even longer than that. This is what the streets of Melbourne looked like at that time. Now, what else is really interesting, and I'm going to bring this up as well. And look, guys, I know some of you are not an RV Yemeni fan. I appreciate that. But there is a particular video that he did on YouTube that was staggering. I'm just going to put it now. YouTube.com. Yemeni. This particular one.
And ask.
Where is it? Okay, he's been pretty active. So here we go. The dodgy COVID deaths in Victoria. So guys, look, it doesn't take a genius to work out that when people are locked in their houses for extended period of time, people are actually going to become sick. They're going to become unwell, right? They're not going to be, in such a rejuvenated state, their health is potentially going to suffer. So what happens when you start creating fear amongst people by classifying every single death of an individual who happens to have COVID also, even if that death is not catalyzed by COVID, as a COVID death? Check this out.
Yesterday, during the daily press briefing, Victoria's Chief Health Officer made an unbelievable revelation, but not one journalist in the room followed up with the necessary line of questioning. Before we get to that, just have a listen to what he said.
For deaths from coronavirus, anyone who's a confirmed case who dies is classified amongst coronavirus deaths. So it doesn't have to be definitively from coronavirus. And in some instances, in aged care, there would have been some residents who were already receiving palliative care who became infected with coronavirus. So definitive about whether they've died with or from coronavirus. I think it's fair to say that coronavirus is a very serious infection in anyone in aged care. But for classification purposes and reporting purposes, that's the definition.
Right. So palliative care, for those of you who don't know what that is, it is essentially where it's a type of medical caregiving, and the approach is basically aimed at optimizing the quality of life and mitigating suffering among people with serious, complex illnesses that are essentially a death sentence. Usually speaking, you would go into palliative care if you're going to die in the next few days. So people who are in palliative care for something else unrelated, who have happened to contract COVID, that then die from what they were going to die of anyway that they were in palliative care for, they're classifying that as a COVID death. And they're then using that as leverage and saying, well, we've still got all of these deaths from COVID. So, because we've got all of these COVID deaths, we need to get people, we need to lock down things further because people are dying of COVID and we need to stop this. It's like, no, they're not dying of COVID. They're not. This isn't some conspiracy theory shit. Look, I don't get mad anymore. I used to get pissed off when people would dismiss conspiracy theories, because a conspiracy is when two or more people are conspiring together for a certain outcome. They're working together to try and achieve a certain goal, and it's usually political. That it tends to be the general context and the most commonly used context of conspiracy. A theory is when you have an explanation or a conceptual framework to explain something. So if I have a theory, a conceptual framework, and an explanation around something that people are conspiring to do, that I have evidence of, that I can prove that they're conspiring to do it, that is technically a conspiracy theory. Now let's give you a conspiracy theory in the most classical sense of the word, in the sense that someone just coming up with a theory and going, oh, I think this is happening, but I don't have any evidence to do it. Now, my theory is that the concept conspiracy theory was created to try and shut down anyone who would have a conversation about or even suggest that there might be something going on that people are conspiring to do, because the people that were conspiring to do it didn't want to get caught out. That's how I think it originated. I could be wrong. If I am, I'm happy to stand corrected. But, I would be pretty certain that would happen. Jordan says, hey, Sydney, I've sworn off dating and women for about 4 years now. My parents and family members have started making comments and to try and set me up. What is the best way to dodge and shut this down? I've actually got a few suggestions for you, Jordan, and I hope you like them. So one of my suggestions would be, say, okay, how much do you suggest I spend on a date? And they'll tell you, $40, $50, $60. And then you say, well, how many dates do you think I should take a girl on a week if I was dating someone? Oh, roughly this much. How much do you think I should spend on birthdays and Christmas? And they'll tell you, oh, well, whatever you want. Just, well, if you were me, what would you put as your budget? What would you set as your limit? And then they'll tell you. So what you do is you get out your calculator and you type in the amount that you should spend per meal by their own words, then multiply that by the amount of times per week that they think that you should go out on dates, and then multiply that by 52 because it's 52 weeks in a year, right? And then add the cost of the birthday and the Christmas presents together, and add another $20 a week for petrol and commuting costs to drive them around and pick them up and go and see them. And then multiply that by 52, which is that, what is it, $1,040 a year? So add all that money up and just go, okay, cool. Well, look, that all adds up to about this amount of money. So, I'll text you my bank account details. If you want to swing that amount over to my bank account, I'll start dating. And, because I know you really want me to start dating. So if you really want me to start doing it, then you can really pay for it. Watch how quickly they change. Oh, no, you've got to pay for it. It's like, okay. So is this my money or your money? Because it seems like right now you're telling me that I should spend money that isn't yours on someone that I don't want to date just so that you can have things go the way that you think they should. So I hope that helps, Jordan. Hope that assists you. The Bear in Exile says, Sydney just came in. Was that extension of time on the exams given to all students or just the female ones? Just the female ones. They were given 105 minutes as opposed to 90 minutes. So boys got an hour and a half, women got an hour and 45 minutes. And even though the women got better exam results, which the boys would have also gotten if they had an hour and 45 minutes as well, they still didn't do as well as the boys. Surprise, surprise. By the way, guys, if you are watching and you haven't yet given this a thumbs up, please give this a thumbs up. It does help to get the word out to other gentlemen. If you've got a friend that you know that could really use some answers, please, to something that they're dealing with, please feel free to send them in and, tell them to drop a comment and say, I was sent here by my friend who was watching, just so I know and I can help them out. Here we go. Kyle K says Sydney Ireland. Yes, so I covered the test scores in Ireland for. Oh wait, what? So this is on top of the. Maybe this is the same thing we were talking about before. MGTOW Life says all success to you, Sydney. Thank you, brother. Rupert Miller, notifications have not worked for me for days now. Rupert, maybe even go and unsubscribe and just hit refresh on the page and then resubscribe and hit the bell and then select the all button again. Maybe that might work. Ogre Mikta says, Jordan L, my family used to do the same thing to me until I locked and loaded a 45 at one of them and said, who's going to force me to marry dies. Wow. Savage. But I can't fault. I mean, I couldn't personally hold a gun to one of my family members. Like, I know you didn't mean to shoot, but it's just because it's so foreign to me because we're not allowed to have firearms here unless we've got a firearm license and the rules are really strict. Okay. Rupert Miller, beard oil, gents, it cares for the skin, no rashes. Thank you for that, man. It's a good tip. It is true. I am actually going to exfoliate just to get all this dry skin out, and then I'll do some beard oil. The Best Life says, is it really free? Is what really free? Successful Endeavor says, Sydney, here's the link to your library on the MGTOW Mirror project. Oh, what a legend. Thank you, man. I'll have to go and check that out. I appreciate it. Daniel says, use an electric shaver. It helps then shave, but you must do it more often than yes. So I actually did use a little battery-powered electric trimmer with a comb to trim this morning. I didn't want to go straight with the razor because it would have been a nightmare and it would have just got all bogged down with my hair straight away. Blefis says, holy duck, government-funded radical feminism organization. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Let me show you like how crazy the government's gotten with their feminist indoctrination. Here we go. Respect.gov.au. When we excuse disrespect, it can grow into violence. See the Australian government crest in the top left? A joint Australian state and territory government initiative. So this is every single state and territory in Australia. From a young age, boys and girls start to believe there are reasons and situations that make disrespectful behavior acceptable. We might be surprised at saying things like, it's okay, he just did it because he likes you, and boys will be boys, excuses this behavior in the minds of young people. Yes, it's easy to make those excuses without even realizing it. Now let's have a look at the campaign materials. So this is respect.gov.au, right? Meant to be about respect. Check this out.
Come on then. What happened?
Got detention just for flicking up a girl's skirt.
What? That's it.
Doesn't she know that's just boys being boys?
Yeah, I mean, I've already accepted that as I grow up, I'll probably be harassed and even abused.
Sorry. That's not what I meant.
See, violence against women. Let's stop it at the start. And you notice there, learn more at respect.gov.au, a joint Australian state and territory initiative. So this has actually been fully authorised.
Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra. There we go. Now let's show you the next video. This one is horrific. This makes me sick.
It's okay. He's just being a boy.
Don't worry, Mum. I know it's okay for boys to push girls.
Yeah, and when I grow up, I guess it'll be okay if I'm violent with women.
Sorry, that's not what I meant.
Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
Yeah. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra. And they've got all these posters like, he's going through a phase. Here we go. I'll zoom in for these. He's going to think it's okay. She's just sticking up for herself instead of overreacting. He did it because no one has stopped him instead of because he likes you. She was just wearing her new dress instead of just asking for it. All of this stuff is designed to paint men in a really, really evil way. Violence against women doesn't just start, it grows. If you think violence against women is a big problem, tackle it when it's a little one. Yeah, indoctrinate young boys. So I'm going to take you here. So if you go to the bottom of this page, copyright and disclaimer. So the devil's in the details, gentlemen. Disclaimer, here we go. The government accepts no responsibility for the accuracy or completeness of any material contained on this site. Additionally, the Commonwealth disclaims all liability to any person in respect of anything and of the consequences of anything done or omitted to be done by any such person in reliance, whether wholly or partially, upon any information presented on this site. Material on this site is made available on the understanding that, and I quote, the government is not providing professional advice. Before relying on any of the material on this site, users should obtain appropriate professional advice. Views and recommendations of third parties, which may also be included on this site, do not necessarily reflect the views of the Commonwealth or even indicate a commitment to a particular course of action. So they're spending all of this money on these ad campaigns, putting it all over bus stops, all over TV, all over the internet, all over trains, everywhere. Like everywhere you go when these promos are going on, you see it everywhere. But they don't indicate a commitment to a particular course of action. They're not going to do anything that might suggest that they're taking any action. Are you kidding me right now? Like, this is the craziness. So if users should obtain professional advice. Well, I heard that mensline.org was really good. And in fact, if you go to mensline.org.au, it says free help, support, counseling, and referrals for men. See in the tagline there? I don't know if you can from StreamYard. No, you can't. But it does say that free help, support, referrals, and counseling for men in the address bar. So if I go to family violence, changing for good, because there's no option for, well, here we go, experiencing violence. Just going to check what this has got here. Before I bring it up. Right. Okay. Here we go. So there's two things you can click on. You can click on experiencing violence, and experiencing violence, experiencing a violent or abusive relationship. Who can I call? Who can I call if I want to speak to someone? I can call Men's Line, but we're already here, or I can call 1-800-RESPECT. Let's show you more about 1-800-RESPECT in a second. And that's also government funded under the National Plan to Reduce Violence Against Women and Their Children, paid for by the Department of Social Services. Hang on a second. Hello? All right. Sorry, I thought someone was knocking at my door for a sec. I'll go to changing for good here. Ongoing support for men to stop using violence. There we go. I knew it had to be somewhere. What happens in a men's behavior change group? Hang on. Yeah, it's a good chair. I love it. It's so comfy. Right. Sorry about that, guys. Just got people coming and going. Appreciate your patience. So here we go. What happens in a men's behavior change group, and how to avoid bringing your work stress home, addressing problem drinking. And look, I agree with these things, addressing problem drinking, how to avoid bringing your work stress home. But how is this a man's thing again? Because you'll never find any there's no such thing as a women's behavior change group. Let me just go back to that for a second. So men's behavior change group, right? Let's do a quick search for women's behavior change group. Do a quick search for that. There you go. Men's behavior change group work. The effect of male family violence on women's parenting. So it's men's fault that women who are shitty parents now. Domestic abuse, the change project, men's group program. Want to change your abusive behavior? There we go. Group behavior. This is, if you just look for men's behavior change, because it's sort of, obviously I've searched for women's behavior change there, men's behavior change. There we go. Men's behavior change programs, family violence, relationships, Australia, Victoria. Find a men's behavior change program. Men's behavior change. Men's behavior change. This is government funded. This one here. No to violence. Men's referral service operated by No to Violence. There's no other equivalent, of course. It's just all that one way. New South Wales. There we go. Baptist Care, Catholic Care, Anglicare. All of these church bodies, they're all they're all feminist organizations. Mission Australia. Manning Up. Yeah, go fuck yourself. So 1-800-RESPECT. This is an interesting one here. This was the one I mentioned before. Now, 1-800-RESPECT, if we scroll to the bottom, zoom right in. Let's zoom right in. Funded by the Australian Government Department of Social Services. Copyright Medibank Health Solutions. Medibank, hey. And if I reset that to 100%, you can barely read that. See, right down there. They don't want you to see that. They have to put it there, but they don't want you to see it. So the reason why this is so interesting is because, as you just saw, this is funded under the National Plan to Reduce Violence Against Women and Their Children, a 12-year plan from 2010 to 2022. We're in the fourth quadrant now. Each 3-year period is multiple, like hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars. Now, play.google.com. I'm just going to bring up this app. So there's actually an app that is been made in conjunction with Medibank for Medibank and 800 Respect. Right. I'm just going to copy this over to this tab. Here we go. Look here. Daisy is brought to you by 1-800-RESPECT with input from all the states and territories of Australia under the National Plan to Reduce Violence Against Women and Their Children. Many women experience sexual assault, family and domestic violence. This app is designed to connect you with a local service. There we go. Yeah, telephone service, men's referral service. Of course, men's behavior change because women never need to change their behavior. They never are violent. But violence against women is unacceptable. I noticed there's nothing that says violence against men is unacceptable. I actually did an episode on because I've got a podcast, anchor.fm. Let's see if I can find it straight away. There we go. I know my URL. So I've actually got an episode. It's the first episode I did on my podcast. Called Lies by Repetition and Omission. Welcome to the Unapologetic Aussie Podcast. I'm going to drop a link to that one there because it is definitely worth a listen for any of you guys that want to see what's going on, why all this is happening. Okay. But yeah, if you on this Daisy out there, see Medibank Private Limited, brought to you by 1-800-RESPECT under the National Plan. And of course, 1-800-RESPECT is brought to us by, like we mentioned before, the Department of Social Services. I'll see what I'm sure I've got something on the Minister for Social Services as well. Lensink. What's her name? Lensink. Michelle Lensink, she is the Minister for Human Services. So that basically covers an enormous portfolio. She's also a politician. She's the member of the Legislative Council, which creates a lot of legislation. So just to give you a bit of an idea, if I can copy the image across here. Image address, there we go. So this here is Michelle Lensink. She's the Minister for Human Services. And here is the token cuck over here. But you can just imagine the legislation being drafted by this bunch over here. Just imagine. Now, God, there was actually a thing that she did a while back. It's probably too far back for me to find. I'll see if I can do a quick search, but I'm not gonna. Oh, hang on. Is this on? Oh God, here we go. So this isn't the one that I was thinking of, but this is a textbook example of what I'm talking about. First for South Australia, the Marshall Liberal government, piss off, will fund a new dedicated 24/7 men's DV hotline and support services in a bid to stem violent behaviours and manage the expected increase in domestic, family and sexual violences incidents due to COVID-19. 900 grand for the 24/7 men's referral line for South Australian men to seek advice, support and help about their use of violence and to connect them with DV services. $1 million to DV services across SA for brokerage packages for people experiencing violence and abuse, of course, women, only to be used to pay for immediate support, including transport, safety upgrades to property, financial counseling, and support for children. You know, the children that they get to keep because, well, they have a JJ. and the remainder of the fund, etc. So you get the idea, right? It's a total stitch up, complete stitch up. There's no other way to describe it. Grin Reaper very well says, I can smell the cat piss and alcohol from here. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Real men are waking up and are not playing these mind games with these women anymore. That is absolutely 100% correct. Guys aren't falling for it anymore. And all of this tightening of the legislation is happening because women are losing their power and men aren't playing the game anymore. That's right. And they want the power. In fact, one of their goals, right? So Validation Boy says Australia has a severe problem with female violence against men, or so I hear. Yes, it actually does. It actually does. But yeah, it's quite extraordinary. Guys, I'm going to dig deep for you here. I'm going to pull out one of my my secret weapons in my repertoire here. So I've got a lot of articles. I mean, I have over 7,000 articles that I've saved over the last probably year and a half. This is part of where I get all my articles from, my little collection, and and I've got to dig so far in because I save almost everything that interests me on some level, and there's just so much that interests me. Let me find this. This is quite staggering, this one. Australian Parliament House. Right, here we go. Now, this is where it gets interesting. This gets real interesting. So, DV. So, where is it? The most pervasive form, and this is where it gets really insidious. The most pervasive form of violence currently experienced by women in Australia is violence perpetrated by a male intimate partner, commonly referred to as domestic violence. However, it is important to acknowledge that men and same-sex partners can also experience this form of violence. So that's the little caveat to say, hey, look, see, we're not sexist. We're not sexist. We know that we're acknowledging that men can experience it too, but we're just going to say that it's essentially one way. Yeah. That's what they're trying to tell you. Hang on a sec. All good, guys? Music, mate. What's that? Are you doing music? No, I'm actually just doing a live stream at the moment, and just talking shit with the guys online. Got been going for about an hour and 30 minutes. Got 106 people. So wow, yeah. So what the cat doing there? My cat's just kicking back here. 19 years old. Oh, 19? Mm-hmm. Wow. Unbelievable. Yeah. Normally, the life of the cat or dog, they're very short, about 15. Check this out, guys. Duluth, 18 entries. 18. Oh, better go. Thanks, guys. Perpetrator programs. There are two main approaches to intervention programs, which usually take the form of group programs that target perpetrators. Psychoeducational programs, the most common approach, and usually employing a feminist perspective of domestic violence that places the responsibility for the violence with the perpetrator, which of course is the man, because it's a feminist perspective, and highlights the contribution of patriarchal gender relations in contributing to domestic violence by explicitly and implicitly sanctioning men's use of power and control over women. The Duluth approach discussed below under integrated intervention programs typically employs a feminist psychoeducational approach. Yeah, psycho, all right. Sorry, guys, just got to turn the fan up here because my cat is like just chilling out and just got his paws over the heat outlet. So I got to up the fan to get all the heat out. Now, here's the next bit of this. So I'll go to the next entry. Look at all these references to the Duluth model. I'm model for integrated intervention programs is a program originally established in Duluth in Minnesota and the US, commonly referred to as the Duluth program. The focus of the Duluth model is thus much broader. The Duluth approach includes a high level of integration with the criminal justice system, particularly in terms of referrals of perpetrators to programs by police and the courts. You know, those men's behavior change programs that the police tell you that you have to go to because a woman said that you were mean to her and hurt her feelings. And look, if you're violent, then I'm not going to say that you shouldn't go to something like this to get help, but it should go both ways, right? That's my argument. The intervention involves group counseling for perpetrators using a feminist-informed psychoeducational approach which places the primary cause of domestic violence as patriarchal ideology and conceptualizes violence as being the exercise of power and control over women. While having an integrated approach is seen as important, research has determined that the group intervention component of the Duluth approach appears to have, at best, a very small effect. So why are they even doing it? It's so expensive. Like hundreds of dollars that could be going towards the kids. And it's just like, yeah, Duluth everywhere. It's just extraordinary. Here we go. The model revolves around the provision of courses for perpetrators aimed at encouraging behavioral change and the premise that male violence is an expression of men's power and control over women and focuses on modifying and changing these violent patterns of behavior. So I'm just going to correct them there because I actually have the book by Ellen Pence, who created the Duluth model. Google Play Books. Here. Just going to bring this up first, guys. Here we go, books. Right, so I'm going to just share this one with you. Stop share. Here we go. So this is very, very telling. Now, this is called Coordinating Community Responses to Domestic Violence. I'm not going to show you too much just because I don't want to get copyright striked for anything. But I do want to share this. It says, we worked on developing ways to distinguish between slappers, those who use low levels of violence, and stalkers. Here we go. The power and control wheel, which was developed by battered women attending women's groups, was originally a description of typical behaviors accompanying the violence. Somewhere early in our organizing efforts, however, we changed the message to, he is violent in order to get power. Oh, hang on. We changed the message from, go back here. Yeah, so in effect, it said when he is violent, he gets power and control, which is true. When someone is violent, typically speaking, they will get power and control by default because the person that has been on the receiving end of the violence and is now scared and becomes submissive and essentially gives away their power to the person that now has it. So that's true. But somewhere early in our organizing efforts, however, she says, we changed the message to, he is violent in order to get power and control. Very sneaky wording change. This is what feminists do. The difference is not semantic. It is ideological. Wow. Wow. Interesting, right? Check this out. Somewhere we should, yeah. Okay. Like those we were criticizing, we reduced our analysis to a psychological universal truism. The DAIP staff, which is the Domestic Abuse Intervention Project, like the therapist insisting it was an anger control problem or the judge wanting to see it as an alcohol problem, or the defense attorney arguing that it was a defective wife problem remained undaunted by the difference in our theory and the actual experiences of those we were working with. We all engaged in ideological practices and claimed them to be neutral observations. Eventually, we began to give into the process that is at the heart of the Duluth model, interagency communication based on discussions of real cases. It was the cases themselves that created the chink in each of our theoretical suits of armor. Speaking for myself, I found that many of the men I interviewed did not seem to articulate a desire for power over their partner. Yeah, because most guys don't want to have power over their partner. Although I relentlessly took every opportunity to point out to men in the groups that they were so motivated and merely in denial, the fact that very few men ever articulated such a desire went unnoticed by me and many of my coworkers. So basically, they were just turning a blind eye. Eventually, we realized that we were finding what we had already predetermined to find. The DAIP staff were interpreting what men seemed to expect or feel entitled to as the desire. When we had to start explaining women's violence towards their partner, lesbian violence, and the violence of men who did not like what they were doing, we were brought back to our original undeveloped thinking that the violence is rooted in how social relationships like marriage and the rights people feel entitled to them to within them are socially, not privately constructed. Interesting, right? Now, finally, activists for years have faced the accusation that women who claim to be battered are often lying about the abuse. Even though the research overwhelmingly shows that women in fact minimize abuse, defense attorneys, prosecutors seeking to dismiss cases, and judges explaining non-punitive sentence spin tales claiming that women are likely making up the abuse, its effects on their children, and the need for protection. While it's clear that every community can find the case of the woman who lied, all women are suspect. For more than a decade, the DAIP and shelter advocates reacted to this constant undercurrent of women are liars by arguing that women are saints, and both of those are absolute statements are completely false, because not all women are liars when it comes to this stuff, and not all women are saints when it comes to this stuff. There's nuance, there's balance, there's people on both sides, there's people in the middle. In many ways, and this is the kicker, this is the nail in the coffin of this ideology. In many ways, we turned a blind eye to some women's use of violence, their drug use and alcoholism, and their often harsh and violent treatment of their children. Yeah. There did not seem to be a way to acknowledge these problems and still argue that this was a deeply gendered issue and that women were being subjected to repeated acts of intimidation and coercion, very different from what men were experiencing as a group. Interesting, right? Very interesting. Grim Reaper, thank you for that super chat, my brother. He says, as a MGTOW, I take comfort in the knowledge that these policies can't affect me. That is correct. Just don't get accused of anyone out and about. I know that's very rare that would happen, that you would get accused by some random on the street, but it happens. It happens. I think body cams are going to become a big thing in a few years. That's just my take. Vention MGTOW says, indeed, and it's a better way to live anyway. Once I paid off the house, I was living well on 30% of my mechanic wages. Delta Dan says, I dropped MGTOW on 1 million+ sub channel on a super chat last night. Delta Dan, which channel was that? I'd love to check that out. It'd be interesting to go back and look at the stream and have a listen to what they talked about there. So well played on that one, brother. Michael Guevara says, says, ask any woman if she's a feminist and they'll usually deny it and then start telling you we still need feminism. I like how Sydney says feminists instead of women. Well, like I'm not bothered talking about women, right? Because like women are women, you know, if you understand them, you understand them. But feminists are the problem. That's why I talk about them specifically. And yes, more often than not, I have found that girls do have an inclination to like the bad boys. That is, I would say that is more true than not. Thank you for that observation, Chris Edwards. Now, this is an interesting one, Shane. What if she likes getting slapped? And some girls like getting slapped. Some girls like getting choked. I mean, really, really like getting choked. Not kidding. But of course, choking would come under the Duluth model as family violence. Successful Endeavor says Duluth wheel of power and control is biased. So what I'm actually going to do now, because obviously we can see this Duluth. If I scroll right to the bottom to the last reference to Duluth, see this. Look at the top here, guys. aph.gov.au. That is the Australian Parliament House. Right? If we go there, that Australian Parliament of Australia, like this is, they're not hiding this. This is out there for everyone to see. But if we go here, see the Duluth model website for details, it literally references right back to the original Duluth model website over in Minnesota. The same one that has men's nonviolence programs. 1980s. Ellen Pence, who created the Domestic Abuse Intervention Project, who was the one that wrote that book that I just showed you. This is her brainchild. See, I go about PENCE. Maybe they don't mention her specifically on here, but she was the board of directors. So yeah, unfortunately, Ellen Pence is no longer alive. Well, depends on how you look at it, really. I mean, I just wish that she wasn't born to begin with, because then she wouldn't have created the Duluth model. But anyway, we'll go to the wheels, just so you guys can see how sexist this thing is. Download wheels. Here we go. Power and control wheel. I will copy that and I will paste that into let me just remove that from the stream. Share. Chrome tab. There we go. This is the power and control wheel. And of course, you know they had to put male privilege in there. You know, using male privilege. It's really quite extraordinary. This is the Duluth model. And it says here, economic abuse, making her ask for money. So what if she's irresponsible with money and spends all of the rent money and then results in you guys being out on the street? Then you're not providing for her. You can't win, guys. This whole thing is completely rigged. If you want to check it out for yourself, head on over to the Duluth model, DULUTH model.org/wheel-gallery. Or you can just go to duluthmodel.org, and when you get there, just click on wheels up the top and go download wheels. And just click on the first one, the power and control. And you'll see everything you need to know. It's some scary shit. And yeah, guys, I think I am going to start tuning out now. I really should actually go get some sleep. I'm getting to that point now. Greatest American Hero, thank you for your super chat, brother. He says, would love to discuss Duluth model. When I went to Family Crisis Center, they demanded I sign an admission of guilt in order to receive services when my ex-wife was battering me. Yeah, I would like to discuss the Duluth model with you. You know what? Fuck it. Because that particular topic is so important, I am going to drop a link to this stream in the comments. And just make sure you put Greatest American Hero as your name. Otherwise, I won't let you in. So, guys, please don't use this illegitimately. Unless if you got a $50 super chat or higher, I will bring you in and I will have a conversation with you. You can actually hide your video if you don't want your video to be seen. You only want audio to be captured. So that's something you can do, just letting you know. But I put that link. So if you want to join in, more than welcome to. Michael Guevara says, in France, we have a law barring paternity testing. Yeah. That's right. Paternity testing, France. I remember that actually. So the reason why they banned paternity testing in France. Here we go. I'm just bringing up this article now. Copy link address. Share that. There we go. Vincent MGTOW says, man, that's nuts. I've heard of abused men being referred to perpetrator programs as well. Yeah, look, abused men are always getting sent to perpetrator programs. It's not even remotely surprising. It's happens every single day of the week. Every single day. Right. So I just got asked by Greatest American Hero, Sydney MGTOW, what book are you quoting from? So the book I am quoting from, I'm just going to bring it up now. Google Play Books. The book I'm quoting from is called Coordinating Community Responses to Domestic Violence. So I'm going to see if I can actually drop the link for this. Coordinating Community Responses to Searching that now so I can share the link with you guys. Okay, copy link address. I'm just dropping that in the comments now. All right, cool. I'm just about to bring Greatest American Hero in. Bear with me a moment. Hey, how are you, mate?
Hello, hello. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Very well. So I, you know, like I said at the start of this stream, I was only going to bring in people who super chat $50 or more, and the one person that did do that was just saying he doesn't have any questions, but he was just ecstatic to catch a live stream. Shout out to Matthew Drescher. Thank you again for your big super chat there. But yeah, you mentioned that you'd like to discuss the Duluth model because when you went to the Family Crisis Center, they demanded you sign an admission of guilt in order to receive services when your ex was battering you. So tell me about what services they were, because this is these services that you are offered. As long as you signed an admission of guilt, it's almost like blackmail.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So what?
So I am in the Pacific Northwest of America, and when all hell broke loose in my marriage, I was trying to find help. I was trying to figure out what the hell to do because my ex-wife had been having what I would call, or what I now know as, dissociative episodes. And I believe that she is borderline personality disorder. There was no formal diagnosis, but I had been pushing her for quite some time to get help because there would be huge blowouts. You know, everything would be fine, and then out of nowhere, she would just get violent, and then would act like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I did that." And what's that?
Of course, she can't believe she did that.
Yeah, and
totally
so yeah, and so what would, like, over ridiculously banal things. Like one time, just for an example of what could set her off, she asked. She had gotten back from school. She was going to a university, and she asked me to get. She was carrying groceries in, and she asked me to get her bag out of the car for her. And she'd been home for some time, and I went outside. It was freezing cold out, and I said, "Oh, you don't want to leave your electronics in the car when it's this cold out because when you bring them in, you can get condensation, they can get damaged." And that prompted a full-on meltdown. She pulled a knife. I mean, that was the first time that something really off the wall happened. Other times included, and I mean, literally, there was no, I wasn't angry with her. She just, you know, I'm like, hey, baby, FYI, you know, if you do this with your electronics, she had like a $3,000 MacBook, and you know, she could have fried it. So, another time, I was sick. I was at home sick, and I didn't make dinner, and I had fallen asleep, and I woke up. She was standing on the bed, kicking the crap out of me, because I hadn't made dinner. And I mean, I'm not talking. You know, she was a big girl.
Like where was
not?
Big girl.
What's that?
What's up with the attitude on the big girls, huh? But I'll look. I mean, they got an attitude. They got an attitude, big or small. But
yeah, this wasn't like. What's that?
Where was she kicking you?
Oh, in the back, in the stomach, in the head. She went for my head. I mean, she was. I mean, like, I'm not talking about like gentle taps here. I'm talking about like she's trying to curb stomp me.
Yeah.
And you know, and this wasn't like, you know, oh, this happened all the time. She would be completely fine, you know, things were going great, and then out of nowhere she'd have these blowouts. You know, there were times where she thought I was her dad that had abused her with a kid, so I'd wake up to her like on top of me, just punching the crap out of me in the face, and she's screaming her dad's name, like calling me her dad.
Oh wow.
I mean, like, you know, I would wake up to that. It's not like we were having an argument. I would be stone cold asleep and would wake up to her stalking me in the face and me trying to fight her off.
Wow.
So I had demanded that she go talk to a therapist, and she did. She just went to a feminist therapist. And as you can imagine how that went.
They're all free and government funded, right?
What's that?
Because they're all free and government funded, right?
No, this is America.
Oh, okay. I wasn't
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if they've got some government funded programs over there.
Oh no, this was all through my health insurance through my job.
Right. So she didn't pay for it, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so the therapist wants to bring me in to do couples counseling. Well, one thing I discovered later is that it's incredibly unethical for a therapist to work privately with an individual and before they ever work with them as a couple. Like, you either work with them as an individual or you work with them as a couple, because it'll bias you. Feminist therapists don't care about that. So when I met this woman, I was already like, my guard's up. I'm not really sure what to make of her. And I'm just asking her questions, like, and at the time I'm doing my own research, trying to figure out what the hell's going on with my wife.
Right.
Because it was starting to get really scary. I mean, there was some, there was more than one incident. There were threats of false accusations. I mean, I'm sitting here freaking out going, what the hell? You know, money's disappearing out of the account. I'm catching her in more and more lies. There's all sorts of things going wrong.
Sounds like a abuse to me.
Yeah. So when everything blows out, she has another one of her episodes, and she's screaming, "You're going to kill me! You're going to kill me!" And I'm going, "What are you talking about?" Like, I tried to take video of it. She grabbed the phone and threw the phone. You know, and I didn't want to lay a finger on her. Like, I didn't want to physically restrain her, because I know how that works. You know, like, I'm going to jail. I'm not going to go to jail for this. I didn't do anything wrong. So she runs out of the house after this was the time that she was kicking me, and I got her off of me, and just, you know, and like, you have to remember, I was stone cold asleep. I don't know what's happening. All I know is I wake up to a sharp pain in my back, and all of a sudden I'm just getting wailed on. So I lashed out because I didn't know if this was a break-in. And I mean, the lights in the room were off, and there's just someone kicking me. So I lashed out and I punched. I didn't even know it was her, and I caught her in the arm.
Oh, no.
So she runs out of the house after she had started the fight. I get the lights on. She's sitting there screaming at me. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing this? What is wrong? And I have no inbox. Like, I have no idea what was going through her head. Anyway, she runs out of the house, doesn't come home that night, goes to the therapist first thing the next morning and tells her that I was hitting her. So I go into that meeting, and part of the reason why this whole thing turned into such a big blowout was because I told her, we're talking about this with the therapist tomorrow, because I hadn't talked to the therapist at all about any of the violence yet.
Right.
And so I said, this is coming out tomorrow. So she made a preemptive move, got to the therapist first, played the victim. And when I walked into the therapy session, the therapist confronted me. The therapist is like, well, so tell me what happened. And I'm like, she attacked me last night. I woke up, she was on. What's that?
Of course, she already knew what she thought had happened. So she's just waiting for your violence that wasn't occurring.
Exactly. So my ex-wife told all of our friends and family that I was physically abusive. Everyone cut me off. No one would talk to me. No one would believe me.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I did, she never came home after that. She went to her mother's, who's also borderline.
Let me guess, single mother?
No, even worse.
Oh no. How could it be worse than that?
Oh, I think you know how.
Enlighten me.
Well, 40% of male pedophiles operate with a female.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Continue.
So her stepdad, her biological father was a cokehead. Her stepdad was a child molester. And her stepdad's brother started molesting her when she was an infant. He had gone through juvenile, but his records had been sealed. So from the time she was an infant till she was about 6 or 7, she was molested by her older stepbrother. And then when she turned about 10 or 11, her stepdad molested and raped her, and her mom knew about it and did nothing to stop it until the police got involved, and then she played the victim. So what had been coming out before this, like some of the stuff that had been causing all this drama and upset in our marriage, was she was like leaking this information out to me, and I'm sitting here going, you've got to you've got to confront your mom, or you've got to cut her off, because like every time I see your mom, I want to just punch her in the face. And she's playing it off, and I was abused as a kid too by my mom. And so this was all the backstory of what's happening.
Right.
So at first, the first thing I did when I got home was I called the there's a domestic violence hotline in America called RAIN, which is the
I've heard of RAIN.
Rape, Abuse, and Incest Network, or something like that.
Okay.
And they separate the calls by gender. So if you're a male, you get routed to a voicemail, and if you're a female, you get to talk to somebody.
Right.
So I left a voicemail message asking for them to call it back, and they're like, due to budget restrictions, we're not able to staff this 24/7. Leave a message and someone will call you back. I called a half dozen times and never got a single call back. That's when I went down. I was looking for like a domestic violence, something, because I didn't know what to do. This was before I had no access. I didn't know anything about Red Pill. I didn't know anything about MGTOW. I didn't know anything about men's rights movement. I knew nothing. I was raised by a crazy feminist. And even though I hated feminism, I mean, that was still how I was brought up.
Yeah.
So
it's not like you could dodge it,
Yeah. And so I called, I'm calling around to the different, social service hotlines that they have, and they referred me to what's called a family crisis center. That is such a Orwellian misnomer. It is not about families at all. It's a battered women's shelter that takes money that's technically allocated for men because of gender equality and calls it family stuff and then reallocates it to women. That's all it is. And it's government funded. It was done by the city where I live. And so I show up there, and when you first walk in, they've got like a steel door, and you walk into this little tiny lobby, and it's like a bank vault. They've got bulletproof glass. There's like enough room for 2 little chairs in like a waiting lobby. And so they give you an intake form. You fill out the intake form, and then one of the people there will review it, and then they bring you back and they interview you. So they were thinking that I had been referred there by like some sort of court-ordered domestic violence program, like I was the abuser. And so they're kind of snickering and laughing at me behind the bulletproof glass. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is so messed up. And then when they bring me back, there's like this room they bring you into that's sort of like a big kitchen. And there's a round table, and they bring out all this paperwork that's the Duluth model. I mean, they have, the wheel of power control and all this stuff, and everything in there, all the paperwork, all the forms they wanted you to fill out, identify the victim as female and the abuser as male. So all the pronouns that they freak out about all the time, everything that references a abuser uses male pronouns. Everything that references female uses female pronouns, or references a victim uses female pronouns. So I'm reading through this, and these are contracts. These can get submitted to the courts. So I'm reading through this stuff, and it dawns on me that if I sign this piece of paper, what I'm doing is because there's nowhere for you to like change any of the wording. There's nowhere for you to like circle or mark that you're a victim seeking help. You have to sign, like it says husband, abuser, wife, victim. So I have to put my name next to where it says abuser and sign off on that before they will give me any counseling, access any resources. And there's no way. And I asked them, hey, can I sign here? And you just cross the name out. And they said, no, that invalidates the form. You can't do that. And so I'm sitting here going, you're kidding me. I have to, in order for a man who's being battered to get help, I have to admit I'm an abuser. And the lady that was there had the other thing was, so the lady said they had a lady come out and sit down with me, and then they had a guy standing behind me the whole time. So presumably because they thought I was a threat. So literally the dude's like standing over me behind me. So I'm sitting there trying to have this conversation with this dude behind me, and I'm sitting there going like, can I help? Like, what is this about? And basically they treated me like I was a problem that was going to start shit. And I got up and I said, if that's the case, then then forget this. And I walked out, wouldn't sign anything. But there's no help. There is no help. Like everything that they say, and that's really what started a 6-year journey that, I mean, I don't know how far down the rabbit hole you want to go, but like some of the stuff that you're talking about, like I did a lot of research. And I started with Googling false allegations. And oh my God. And this all was happening right when Gamergate broke out. So I was watching that like a hawk because it's like the first time I've ever seen anyone, call a woman out publicly and kind of, sort of have some success with it. So, but I mean, like, even in going, I found a therapist through my job and I went and I told them everything. And this guy didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
He couldn't even wrap his head around that, like, the female could be the aggressor.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, a lot of this training, and in fact, in law and criminology now, they are teaching you about different types of things. In fact, I'm actually going to read a few things to you that I came across. Now, the issue that I found with these things, and it's quite extraordinary. I mean, it really is. It's just, you can't even make this stuff up. This particular thing that I found, a friend of mine, he was going to University of Technology, Sydney, and I found these images. I basically took photos of screenshots. Well, I took photos of his screen, so I'm going to call them a screenshot for all intents and purposes. And these photos were effectively part of a policing course that you have to do. It mandatory to go into the police. So this is genuinely like criminology.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's in everything now. In fact, have you heard of there's a documentary that came out of Norway called Brainwash. Have you seen that yet?
I haven't seen it, but I have heard of it actually.
So it was done by this Norwegian comedian. He's kind of like the Jon Stewart of Norway. He had like a comedy program that lampooned the news, right? And so he got involved in this because something having to do with his kids, and he was with his school, and they were teaching his kids. So he made this 7-part documentary where he goes into all this different ideology around gender studies, basically. And what he does, what's brilliant about it is he sits down with the critical theory people and he asks them to explain their position. Then he goes to like sane, rational scientists and asks them to explain their position. And then he shows both sides what the other side says about them. And oh my God, it absolutely destroys the critical theory, gender theory people. Like they just have no response.
Well, it's theory. It's nothing else. It's just theory. And it's not even theory rooted in fact.
Yeah, it's 100% ideological. There's no factual, rational basis on any of it. In fact, what they do is they actually manufacture data and studies, and now we have a massive problem. And this isn't just gender studies. This is like across all scientific fields, because this has moved into mainstream sciences now, where like they can't replicate any of these studies. That like all these scientists are complete frauds. I mean, it's just malpractice. They can't, I mean, and over here in America, it's really bad because they had the American Psychological Association, which is like the trade group for
the psychology body. The psychology.
They are the experts on it. And they represent, science to policymakers. Now they're pushing that basically masculinity is a disease that needs to be cured.
Yep.
I mean, they're approaching male human nature as a pathological model.
Absolutely.
And all of this came out of Duluth model, Scum Manifesto, and what's her face, Gloria Steinem.
Yeah. The Scum Manifesto is something else. It is something else.
That's that was where my mom got her parenting philosophy from.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No wonder she sucked as a mum, from what you're telling me.
Oh, I'm working on my autobiography.
I will buy that and I'll promote it when that's written, because I would, I mean, as long as it's good, obviously, but I would love to read that.
I'd love to share. There's certain things I can't discuss right now because of legal reasons. This is actually the first time I've talked publicly. I've been actually trying to reach out to different people that I really respect online. So I really appreciate you bringing me on, because you're the first person to have me on. And I mean, like, I'm in a position where I can't even share my name or face, really. So
totally respect that. Obviously, I mentioned to you to leave your camera off when you come on.
Yeah. But yeah, no, like, I mean, so my journey, I mean, really the Duluth model is what put me on the warpath to Red Pill, because I was so horrified, like, as a kid that grew up abused by my mom, like, I grew up in a religious cult. And just to give you an idea of my mom, she murdered my grandfather when I was 6 and got away with it completely.
Wait,
like there was.
Sorry. She murdered your grandfather.
Yes.
Your grandmother murdered your grandfather when you was 6.
No. My mother murdered my grandfather when I was 6.
As in her father?
Her father.
Wow.
So
why did she do that? I mean, there's no excuse, but I mean, did she ever articulate a reason behind why she did that?
I'll tell you the story. So the backstory: my grandfather was a World War II vet. He came back from World War II, and he had been in the Navy, but he had what they now call PTSD severely.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really messed him up was they were on a convoy from the U.S. to Great Britain, and they were their convoy was attacked by U-boats, and the ship that a friend of his was on got torpedoed, and he could hear his friend's voice in the water afterwards, and they wouldn't rescue him. They had to keep going. And so he would wake up, even when I was a child, he would wake up screaming his friend's name at night all through my early childhood. And that was something, he was 86 when he died. Jeez. So, or 86 or 83, I forget off the top of my head. But what happened was he had gotten sick. He had gone into the hospital. And I grew up in a Christian Science family that didn't go to doctors.
Yeah, so I guess it sounds kind of like, in a way, a little bit like Jehovah's Witnesses, are they? I don't know what the rules are, but I know I had a friend who wouldn't do certain procedures.
Right. So Jehovah's Witnesses won't they won't consent to blood transfusion, but they will. Like if they broke a bone, they'd go to the doctor and get a cast. Right.
Okay. Yep. That aligns with what I remember happening.
So, and Jehovah's Witnesses will take medication too. Like if they're diabetic, they'll take insulin. If they've got a headache, they'll take aspirin. My family did nothing. Zero, nothing. I almost died multiple times throughout my childhood. I had whooping cough. I had several fevers and flus where I almost died. And if you want to read about sort of like Christian Science abuse and whatnot, there's a couple good books I can point you toward that just kind of go into some of the insanity that happens. There's a book called Father, Mother, God by a woman named Lucia Greenhouse. And there's another book called God's Perfect Child by Barbara Wilson. Now, most of these writers are female because the men just generally don't make it. The guys that stay in the religion. In fact, I had a friend, one thing that's more common than not, because suicide is frowned on in the religion, men will have accidents. So like a friend of mine drove his car into a tree at 85 miles an hour with no seatbelt on.
By accident.
And so by quote unquote accident. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah. That was like 3 years ago. And
I hear about all that. That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's what I grew up in. I mean, I could point you, are you a fan of Metallica?
I do like Metallica, yeah.
So the lead singer to Metallica was raised Christian Science, and pretty much the lyrics of the first 3 albums that they put out are about his experience with abuse.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a whole subtext under there, and he hasn't talked about it much, but he has come out against the church publicly a little bit. But Robin Williams was also his mother was a Christian Science practitioner, actually, which is like basically the Christian Science equivalent of a priest. There's not a direct, it's not a direct translation, but close enough.
Gotcha. Well, look, I mean, I guess because that's a rabbit hole in itself, the whole Christian Science, and Scientology, and there's Jehovah's Witnesses, and there's different I guess subsects of different belief sets and whatnot. But I suppose that's probably going to go a little bit off topic what we originally were chatting about. I guess no, that's okay.
I was going to say, I'm sorry I got off track there. There's a lot I could talk about.
No, nothing to apologize about. Totally cool. What I really wanted to understand, because in your original comment, you said that they demanded you sign the admission of guilt, which you talked about, to receive services. So what services was it that they were offering you if you admitted to being the violent abuser, even though you were the one being abused?
Well, here's the really insidious thing about it. Because what I was asking for was help getting a place. Because like she had taken the money. I mean, she took everything when she left. Car, money, so I'm in an apartment I can't afford on my own income at the time. I'm sick. I'm having some really serious health issues. And so I was asking them for help getting a new place or a shelter I could even stay at, so that if she showed up in the middle of the night, I wasn't going to get jumped on and kicked and then have her call the cops and pretend that I hurt her. So I had asked for help finding a shelter. And what they said is for me to get any help, even counseling, to help find that, I'd have to sign the form.
Unbelievable.
Well, lo and behold, so, and I said, I remember asking her, I'm like, you're kidding me. Like, so you're telling me if I'm a 16-year-old boy and I walk in here and my single mom is beating me or putting cigarettes out of my arm or letting her boyfriend rape me, I have to sign a form saying that I'm an abuser before you'll help me find a place to stay so that I'm not murdered in my sleep? And she said, well, if you want to put it that way, yes. And I mean, like, they were so arrogant and haughty and rude. That's, That's me being polite. Like, they were
That's really
completely off the wall. And like, they were basically, it was almost like being dared. You know, it's, I don't even know how to describe it really. So I walked out of there just furious, but lo and behold, I come to find out afterwards, there is no safety net for men, period. Not in my state. There's nothing. If you, and here's how I found out about that. I went on Psychology Today's website because after I had met with the first counselor, he was a nice guy. I mean, don't get me wrong. He was wanting to be helpful, but he just had no base of knowledge about any of this. And his background was like, you know, he had gotten his degree from like a Christian college. And so he was, I mean, you know, as far as like marital problems, he was helping like, you know, Christian couples with their intimacy problems. He wasn't working with domestic violence. He wasn't working with people that, you know, child abuse survivors.
Yeah.
He was working with like really milquetoast stuff, you know, like oh yeah, just way out of his depth. And so he's trying to be nice and helpful, and he's actually talking with my ex-wife's therapist, and because I was trying to get a meeting to like, I'm like, okay, you know, at the time I'm just naive and thinking there's no way if we don't all sit down that the four of us, the truth isn't going to come out. Well, oh, someone's knocking on my door. One moment. Oh, sir, I didn't order a pizza. That's these guys. Oh. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I didn't realize this was a duplex. Oh, yeah. Sorry, man. So I got on psychology.
It wasn't sausage pizza?
Yeah. So I got on Psychology Today, and they have like a search function on there, and I was looking for people that worked with abuse, because at the time I'm thinking this was all related to my wife's history of abuse. And I literally called every single psychologist listed in Psychology Today on the West Coast. Washington, Oregon, California. I called hundreds of people.
Okay, you knew you weren't going to find anything in Oregon. Come on. But yeah, you didn't know back then.
Yeah, I didn't know any of this. I didn't know. I mean, you know, I grew up in a Christian cult. I mean, I still really don't understand how the medical system in this country works. You know, I just started calling everyone who said that they were an expert. I only got through to 5 psychologists. Almost every single other one was either not taking new patients, or their waiting list was 18 to 24 months long.
Wow.
And they kept telling me to call my local crisis center or to call RAIN.
And of course, all the local crisis centers are only for women, trying to get men to admit to how bad they are.
Right. And so, and what they told me is the only thing I could do. I called. So in America, there's a you can call 211, and that connects you into like social services. So if you're in a crisis, you can call that. If it's not like a violent situation, you can call them for help. So like, I called 211, and I ended up calling them back like half dozen times, because I kept getting people that were like, yeah, there's nothing. I'm like, there's got to be something out there. And like the last time I called them, like, listen, your only choice, dude, is to go to a homeless shelter. That's it.
Wow.
So, and the homeless shelters here in the Pacific Northwest are so overloaded.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah. Oh, it's so much worse than you could ever imagine. We could talk about that if you want. I can give you on the ground eyewitness. I could even send you some video if you want. But
well, I think this would actually be a really cool video for, a really cool conversation for a podcast. The guy that, I don't know if any of you saw him, but there was a dude walking behind me before. He's going to come back shortly and going to start drilling and doing all sorts of crazy shit in my house. Not drilling me, obviously drilling the floor where there's a bit of an issue. So I'm going to have to, unfortunately, cut this short. But I would actually love to ask you some questions about this and go do like a proper podcast on this. Is that something you'd be open to?
Absolutely. In fact, I would love to talk with you offline about some things too, and just kind of key into some of the work I'm doing, because I'm looking at going public fairly soon.
Okay. Well, look, send me an email to sydneymigtow@gmail.com. And let's chat offline. Unfortunately, I do apologize for cutting you off, but I really got to get going. I've gone way over time what I thought I would do. And the guy said I can go any moment, and just don't want to be kind of trying to negotiate with him like, hey, dude, just hang on a second, I'm going to finish up. You know what I mean? It's just and the guy's English isn't great either, so that doesn't help.
Oh, no worries, man. Thanks so much for talking with me, and I'll look forward to having a longer conversation another time.
My pleasure. And guys, look, thank you to absolutely everyone that has come on the stream today. It has been an absolute blast having all you guys here. Really appreciate the donations, especially the super generous one again from our sponsor of today's video, Matthew Drescher. Glad you caught me live finally, and thank you for that. And thank you to everyone else that decided to make a donation today. Anyway, guys, if you want to donate in any other way, you can head on over to PayPal. I'm not sure. I think with PayPal, I don't think I've had any donations during the stream. Just double checking again, because if I did, I really want to acknowledge it. Make sure you smash that thumbs up, by the way, if you haven't already. Yep, so that's cool. I haven't had any PayPal donations during the stream. That's totally fine. I just wanted to make sure that if I did, I acknowledged anyone who did actually make a donation. So I'm going to head out. If you want to donate, like I said, you know what to do. There's crypto, PayPal, and everything else in the description below. But for now, I'm going to bounce. I appreciate you all. I'll catch you in the next video. Hopefully I'll have this light working probably next time. But until then, peace.